The name of my talk is What's a Story and Why Teachers Should Care. And I'm going to start with the care part. And to show you why you should care, I'm going to tell you a couple stories. They're really little stories. They're anecdotes. The first one happened to me in 3rd grade. Now, I didn't know I was colorblind in 3rd grade. I thought every kid read the name of the crayon to discover what they were, because that's what I did. Oh, aquamarine, ooh, burnt sienna, brown. And we were coloring pie plates for open house. The teacher was going to pin them to a bulletin board. And I don't know, I was coloring away with all my little 8-year-old heart and soul. I was in love with my pie plate. I was so excited. I was the first one done, and I ran to the front of the room, and I shoved it under my teacher's nose, and I said, look at my pie plate, look at my pie plate. And she said loud enough for every kid in that class to hear, this is the ugliest pie plate I've ever seen, and I won't hang it up. Do you believe she did that to an 8-year-old? My last memory of that scene was running back to my seat and sitting on it and crying because all the kids came running up to see my ugly pie plate. The next one happened in high school. I went to Roosevelt High School. I was on the football team, and I was kind of like a wunderkind because as a sophomore, I was on the team, and I was starting on defense. I was second string on offense. Everybody was going, oh, Lieberman, so good, Lieberman. We got into the playoffs, and in the semifinal, our starting left halfback broke his collarbone, and I was going to have to start in the championship game for the city of Chicago. And all of a sudden, everything I did was wrong. The coach was on me for everything. You know, you're not blocking right. You know how to block. Hit the hole. Got to hit it faster. Get around the end. And toward the end of the week, I was so aggravated, I ripped my helmet off and I flung it on the ground. And when it hit the ground, now he was walking away. He spun around and he pointed at me. He said, Lieberman, if you didn't have it in you, would I bother? And then he turned around and walked off. Well, those are two good examples of like how you should or shouldn't criticize kids. What he said to me, I taught for 30 years, I never forgot that. Would I bother? But I don't want to talk about that. What I want to talk about is your reactions to the two anecdotes. You were so upset with the first anecdote, you had to express it verbally. It was like, oh, she can't do that. And when I said, do you believe a teacher did that to an 8-year-old? Somebody said no. And then even when I came to the second part of that, sitting at my desk, crying, you again gave me that same, oh, you felt sorry for me. And in the second anecdote, you didn't know if it was going to happen, happy or not. But when it happened happy, when it ended happy, you should have seen the looks on your faces. Everybody was smiling. Now think about that. I told you these two anecdotes. And what happened? What happened was I touched you. What happened was you began to identify with me, and you began to have empathy toward me. And when that happens, when you do a story and people start to feel identification and empathy, our relationship changes. I'm no longer just out there telling you a story. You know what it's like to me? It's like I've said to you, hey, come on over here. Stand up next to me. Do you believe she did that? Suddenly we're together. And that's what you want when you create a story. And that's what you want when you want to have your stories about your teaching. You see, tests and test scores don't do that. They don't touch you. They actually invite argument and analysis. But story, it gets right in there. I don't know what it is. I think maybe when we were little and somebody read us a story, we didn't question it. We didn't say, wolves don't talk. And now still the story gets in. And if you want to tell people what it's like in your classroom, I think you have to do it through story. Now I know some of you out there are saying, well, easy to say. How do you write a story? And I know that's a real feeling, because if you said to me, tennis is good for you, go play. I wouldn't even know where to start. So let me give you a real easy model that will help you put a story together. For those of you who are even unsure what a story is, it's a movement from point A to point B is over there. A story it's a journey. Now, how do I get from point A? And usually point A has a question, it has a problem, and over there on point B, there's an answer to the question or a solution to the problem. How do I get there? You get there through scenes. Think of any TV show you've seen. The camera looks here, and all of a sudden it looks here, and then it looks here. And before you know it, you've been following stepping stones right to the end. Now, some of you are still saying, I know this, hey, model schmodel, I can't write. Well, if you're one of the people who have a voice saying to you, you can't write, you know what you should do? You should tell it to shut up. Or if you really want to be polite, you say, be quiet, please. Because this is not hard. This is not hard writing. You don't have to create things. It's not imaginary. You don't have to work out complicated arguments. All you have to do is tell people what happened to you. And you will go from A to B. You already do it. You already tell people what's been going on in your classroom. Now you just have to get it on paper. And to give you an example of how that model works and how really I'm just talking about, writing down things that happen to you, I'll tell you a story that does it. In the last few years of my teaching, I was let off a class and a duty to help the English department. Well, here it is, scene A. What do? I went to see my department chairman. She didn't have any great ideas. It was like, visit every class and give suggestions. Okay? Scene 2, I didn't do that. Our department was experienced. I wasn't going to go into an experienced teacher's room and say, oh, no, you should be doing that. You know what I did? I offered that to beginning teachers, but the main thing I did was I visited every class, every teacher, and I asked them what they were doing that they liked. A unit, a day, and I got such wonderful stories about what people were doing. I had no idea. One guy was so excited, he had just finished the house on Mango Street. And he said, I always told my kids to bring in their strengths. If they could bring in something they do well and apply it to what we're doing, I would love it. And he said, I had 3 guys in a rap group. And you know what they did? They wrote a rap about Esperanza, the main character, and how if she didn't watch out, she was going to be in trouble. And as they did the rap, he said the whole class was just shaking their heads. They knew exactly what those guys were talking about. Well, I took all of those ideas, I wrote them up, I put them in a newsletter, and then I passed it out to every teacher in the school. I did it 3 times that year, and the teachers were happy, of course. People were finding out what they were doing. But I went beyond that. Whoops, next thing. I did something for the kids. In our school, there were tracks. We can talk about tracks later. What I loved was that the English department created a writing contest for every track and every year. So AP kids competed against AP kids. Lower level kids competed against lower level kids. And until that year, you know how they were celebrated? There would be an awards assembly. And they would get their name called, and they'd walk across the stage and get a certificate. They wouldn't even mention the name of the piece they wrote. So what I did is I took a paragraph from every winning entry, first, second, and third. I typed out a paragraph, I blew it up, I put it on poster board, and I hung it in the school. Oh, you should have seen it. Kids walking around, pointing out, names of kids they knew, standing there reading the paragraphs. New scene. I had a winner. a junior in the lower level. Now, he wanted to be a vet, and he was volunteering with the city to work with, when they went out to catch stray dogs or stray animals, he would help get them to shelters, and he was so proud of it. And he wrote that story, and it won. Now, he caught me in the hall. He said, "Where's my paragraph?" He was with a buddy, and he was so excited. And I took him, I knew where it was, and he stood in front of that paragraph, and he read the whole thing. And then he pointed his hand out. He was looking at his name. He said, "That's my name." Think about that. That's my name. Last scene, scene B. What I did for the school, I think, was valuable. I worked with the teachers, I worked with the kids, and what I was doing was recognizing them. I came to feel that adults and kids only to be recognized for the good things they do. Now that is the end of the story, but it's not the end of my talks. The end of this talk is, you just have to do it. You just have to write your stories. Teachers get such bad press. You have to tell people what's really happening in your classroom. Under all those test figures, under all those facts, you need to show them what's going on. You need to tell them when you do good things. You need to talk about your colleagues' good things. What the school does, that's right. What parents do, that's right. And if there's something that isn't right, you need to talk about that too and tell people what you want. You have to write your story. And at the bottom, you have to put your name. And you have to point at it. And with all the pride and joy that my student had, you need to say, "That's my name."